Now, if you're looking at this MG Majestor and thinking, wait a minute, I've seen this car before, you're not alone. And no, I'm not even talking about when it made its India debut way back at the Bharat Mobility Show in January 2025. No, what I mean is, especially when you look at it in profile, you're probably thinking, this is just the MG Gloster, right? Well, that's kind of what we thought too, because it replaces the Gloster in MG's lineup. It uses the same engine and same basic ladder frame chassis, but MG insists it's an all-new car. So is this just a clever bit of marketing and rebranding, or have they actually done some big work here? Come for a drive, let's find out. For a detailed comparison of exactly what's different between the Majestor and the Gloster, click on the link in the description or head over to our website autocarindia.com, where we have detailed specifications of all the variants of this new SUV. But while you're here, tell us in the comments what you think about the MG Majestor. Will it pose a stronger challenge to the Kodiaq, Tayron and, of course, the Fortuner? And in case you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. From the driver's seat, there isn't really too much between the Gloster and this new Majestor. And that's no bad thing at all. You're sat nice and high up, and in front of you stretches this muscular wide bonnet. And you really feel like you're at the helm of something big and powerful, which you are. Visibility is really good because A, this windscreen is so large, and even out the back you get a pretty clear view past all those rows of seats. And though these wing mirrors are absolutely massive, what they do is give you a great view back, and there's even a gap there to reduce the sort of blind spot that you might find with mirrors this large. Ironically, as a result, it's kind of disconcerting how easy this car is to drive. Piloting something so large and tall, you expect the steering to be heavy, but it's just not. It's incredibly light in your hands, and once your brain sort of adjusts to that dissonance, you realize it's actually a much better way to drive a big car. None of that heavy hydraulic steering with lots of kickback that you find in other ladder frame SUVs. That being said though, while it is maneuverable, this is obviously not a sharp handler. It's tall, it's long, it's really heavy, and yeah, it feels rolly to say the least. Now, MG says there have been considerable changes to the chassis and running gear as well. The wheelbase hasn't changed, but it's still a substantial almost 3000 millimeters, but the tracks have been widened. As a result, they claim the car is a whole lot more stable on its wheels, and I tend to agree. This is still not an SUV you're going to sort of lean over into a corner, but I do get a slight greater sense of confidence from it when moving fast around a bend. The ride quality too remains as good as we remember it from before. It's not that sort of firm, tough ride you find again in most ladder frame SUVs. Instead, it's this soft, cushy, floaty, loping thing. It pitches and it rolls and it heaves and it bobs. But frankly, that's forgivable in a big, luxurious SUV such as this. Still, a bit more control and composure would have been beneficial, especially considering this is an all-new suspension setup from the one in the Gloster. At higher speeds, it's not too noticeable, but at low speeds, even the smallest upset will send the car and its occupants moving around a lot. As for the powertrain, MG has standardized the twin-turbo version of its 2-liter turbo diesel engine. Whether you choose the 2-wheel drive or the 4-wheel drive, you're now getting the full 218 horsepower. Does it feel strong? Oh, absolutely, but you do have to contend with quite a bit of turbo lag as it spools up. The 8-speed automatic gearbox returns from before, although there have been some changes under the skin. But it remains a slow, lazy, but very, very smooth gearbox. Refinement? Well, it's decent by the standard of ladder frame diesel SUVs like the Fortuner and the Scorpio N. But it's nowhere near a smooth, sophisticated turbocharged petrol engine. The Majestor's underfloor overhaul goes way beyond just the chassis and suspension though. Whereas the old Gloster did have an all-wheel drive system, this one has shifted to a proper, hardcore 4x4 system with a low-range transfer case and 3 locking differentials, which can be mixed and matched with as many as 5 off-road terrain modes. And MG was more than happy to let us loose on a serious off-road course to try this out for ourselves. Now, nowhere are the hardware changes between the Gloster and the Majestor more evident than when you take it off-road, and that's something MG is really trying to drive home. They've done things like pull a train and drive on sand, and yes, that's a good marketing demonstration, but really a lot has changed under the skin. To demonstrate, they've not just made some homemade curated off-road little walk in the park. No. They brought us to 19 degrees north and they've set us out in the wild on some pretty serious stuff. Now this car has what MG says is 10 different off-road modes. That's not strictly true. It's about 5 different modes combined with different differential settings that adds up to a total of 10. But yeah, it is pretty comprehensive for what is essentially a premium luxury family SUV. Right now I'm still in auto mode and it's doing a sort of descent down a rock face pretty easily, to be honest. The next step up from auto is 4-wheel drive high. Now auto mode is obviously a variable 4-wheel drive system. It can send as much as 40% of torque to the front wheels and as much as 80% of torque to the rear wheels. And then you get to the diff locks. That's right, this one has 3 diff locks. The center lock, not strictly a lock so to speak, but it splits the torque evenly 50-50 front and rear, and it locks it at 50-50 throughout if you put that on. Then there's the rear diff lock, which is an actual rear diff lock, and finally there is a front diff lock that MG doesn't recommend you switch on unless it's absolutely dire necessary. Now putting on the center diff will set it into 4-wheel drive low, so I'm going to pop it into neutral and do that for now. Now apart from setting where the power goes and whether you're on low range or not, you can also choose actual drive modes. And because we're on a sort of muddy surface right now, I'm going to set it to mud and see if it makes a difference. Yeah, you can feel the traction control sort of doing its thing underneath. Now in low range, it will climb pretty effortlessly up this rocky incline. But if that's too much work for you, there's something called CCO, which is essentially off-road cruise control. Activate CCO or M crawl as MG likes to call it, and you can basically take your feet off the pedals and only handle the steering. The Majestor will figure out how much power to send to which wheel, and this works both while climbing and descending. You can also set the speed at which you want the Majestor to tackle the obstacle using the cruise control buttons on the steering wheel. While this is kind of cool, it also feels a bit gimmicky, and in real off-road situations, you'd probably prefer to have full control over the situation. After that spot of rough housing, it was time to clean up, and in the meantime we thought it would be a good idea to check out the interior in greater detail. The place most Majestor owners will be spending the majority of their time is right here in the cabin, and it's these changes I think that matter more than just about anything else they've done, from bringing the Gloster up to the Majestor. Yes, it's still a big, huge, spacious cabin. You do feel like you're sitting quite a distance away from your co-driver, but the look and the feel is completely different. It's a far more detailed dashboard, these big chunky AC vents, that sort of grab handle there, softer touch material over here with contrast colored stitching. It's all a bit dull grey. I wish they'd have used that sort of mocha color that they used in the Gloster, but that aside, quality is really good and the sense of richness is exceptional. There are some plasticky bits like these grab handles. I wish they felt a little more solid or were wrapped in soft touch, but that aside, the sense of a large battleship bridge-like dashboard still remains. The steering wheel remains the same, and I'll get back to that in a moment because of all the controls it has on it. But what has changed is now you get a full 12.3-inch digital driver's display rather than the 8-inch center with the analog speedometer and tacho on either side. The touchscreen remains a 12.3-inch unit, but it's a new MG touchscreen with the latest software, and it does feel a whole lot slicker than the previous one did. Storage is actually quite substantial. There's a big cubby hole under these twin armrests down there, decent sized cup holders, a little recess over here, 2 huge wireless chargers up top here, and even some storage down here where you'll also find the USB ports. There are big door pockets that can take big bottles as well, And down here you'll find a decent sized glove box. That rich leatherette material continues on the door cards, where once again it is contrast stitched and it looks really upmarket. There's a nice chunky grab handle with which to shut the door, and down here you'll find an elegant set of metallic looking grills for the JBL speakers. There's also metallic door handles, and back here you'll find 4 carbon fiber with the ambient lighting built into it. The seats are all new as well. I don't think they're as thickly cushioned as the ones in the Gloster, and they're also a little bit firmer on the cushioning if I remember right, but they are 14-way power adjustable for the driver, 8-way power adjustable for the passenger. They're ventilated and they're also massaging, so you might be willing to forgive it that slight firmness. Now apparently customers are already coming back to MG with feedback that they'd like their buttons back, please. A lot of this has to do with the off-roading hardware for this car. These are the off-road modes, these are the low range settings, these are the differential lock, that's the parking brake, but thankfully there's also a set of shortcut buttons here. These are for the auto climate control, and thankfully there is a nice big shortcut to take you to the home page of the touchscreen at any given point, because despite the fact that they've tried to bring back buttons, the majority of stuff still happens in there. Like I said, climate control is outside, that's a good thing, but other stuff has to be done via the screen. Setting the memory on your seats in the touchscreen, activating the ventilated seats or the massage also in the touchscreen, changing the driving modes. You guessed it, there's a shortcut button here, but you ultimately have to select it from inside there. The touchscreen is much improved from the previous version, but it can be a bit overwhelming. There are a lot of sub-menus that you can go through, and it's easy to get lost in some of the features that this car has packed in because there are a lot. One sub-menu I find particularly fascinating is the DPF menu. What it is a sort of diagnostic display of everything in your car. It's got everything from your RPM, your current brake position, your current gear, to your accelerator percentage, coolant temperature, atmospheric temperature, battery voltage, speed of course, but also the DPF granularity and the state of the DPF, how healthy it is. This meter slowly fills up and it tells you when it's time to regenerate your DPF. Just a little reminder. In fact, it gives you a couple of reminders. They even told us that it will lower the power of the car temporarily if you don't regenerate your DPF on time when it gets close to critical. And there's even a little button here that lets you manually enforce regeneration, so you don't have to go for a long drive if you can't do it, where it just revs up the engine and keeps it that way for a little while, so you can manually regenerate your DPF at home without doing the whole process of driving at a high speed for a long time. Just ushering people into a new age of diesel motoring. The steering is really carrying all the weight of the car's controls on its face. That's because there are so many buttons. Apart from just the paddle shifters on the back, there are navigation buttons on this side to get through the MID over here. Here you've got your media controls, your phone controls, you've got your ADAS and your cruise control over here, and you've even got your voice commands and a shortcut button. Now incidentally, you might have noticed there's no gear lever here anymore. That's because it's been shifted to the right hand side over here. Yes, it's a stock mounted gear selector. Whereas on this side, this stock does the wipers and the high beam flash. But if you want to turn on your headlights or set it to auto mode or manual mode, that's in the touchscreen. The Gloster stood out for its long features list, and the Majestor takes that a step further. There are the two aforementioned screens, a 12-speaker JBL audio system, as well as the big glass roof and 3-zone climate control. Then there are the various drive, steering and off-road modes, connected car tech, ADAS with level 2 autonomy, and a whole lot else. But really, this car is all about the space, and that's best felt in the second and third rows. Now with class-leading height and ground clearance figures, you can bet that it's quite a climb up into the cabin of the MG Majestor, and you'd be right. They've provided a step for you to step up over, but even that is placed so high that you really have to haul yourself up and down into the cabin. But it's all worth it in the end, because what a place this is to be. Now you can get this either with a bench or these captain chairs. And space, well, what can I say? There's loads of it. This, of course, slides all the way forward if you need more space in the back, but you can really stretch out. I do find them quite low to the ground. I wish they were a little bit taller considering how tall this SUV is. And of course, you can adjust them for recline too. Headroom, there's plenty to spare, so yeah, a little bit of height wouldn't have hurt. But I suppose for the tallest of passengers, this is a good little compromise between headroom and seat height. Now back here, you get a massive window. I mean, just look at the size of this thing, which is why it hurts a little bit more that there is no sunshade. We spoke to MG about it and they said yes, they've immediately got feedback about this, saying that there should be a sunshade in a car like this, and they are working on a solution. Other comforts back here are your own third zone of climate control that you can adjust from here. There are two USB type A ports and a full-on 220 volt power socket if you want to charge larger devices. And if you look between these seats over here, there's a pair of cup holders that folds out of this seat. Now, as for the seats themselves, they come with this little armrest and they are very, very comfy, almost as comfy as the ones up front. But these days, with the way segments are going, I wish they'd provided just a little bit more. Apart from the sunshade, maybe some seat ventilation back here, a bit of power adjust, it wouldn't go amiss. And there are more affordable cars that offer that in the second row of seats. What also can't be missed is the panoramic sunroof. That's been a staple of a lot of MG cars, the larger ones at least. And this one does stretch all the way from the absolute front of the roof to the absolute end of this second row. It doesn't go to the third row, but that's all right. It's still pretty large and lets in a lot of light into this huge cabin. And if you're wondering where the AC vents are for this second row, they aren't in their conventional position down here or on the sides. They're up here in the roof for the second and the third rows. Now, of course, the proper way to get into the third row, and you'd have to do this if you had the bench seat version, is to flip down these seats from outside. But because it's such a faff to climb in the first place, I'm going to do what I can do with this captain seat version, and let's just walk in through the center here. Now, this isn't all the way back. It's about this much, 2 or 3 inches away from all the way back. But with this in that position, there's enough knee room in the front over there, and there's enough knee room back here. I'm not even making contact with the seat in front of me. This is truly one of the most spacious rear seats, third row seats in the business, as it was in the Gloster. And really, even more than just kids, adults could probably do journeys in the back seat here. Headroom is really decent too, thanks to the way they've scooped out this roof lining, and the window is pretty large, although of course it does not open. Your rear AC vents are placed up here, which is just a little bit forward, and if you want to adjust the fan speed or the temperature, it's got to be done from the second row. The seat itself is surprisingly well padded for a third row seat, but as you might expect from a third row seat, thigh support isn't very good at all. That's a small nitpick in an otherwise spacious third row seat, and the good news is that even with the third row up, you get a good 343 liters of boot space. Fold them down though, and it expands to a solid 1350 liters. The spare, like in a lot of 3-row ladder frame SUVs, is bolted underneath the vehicle. Now, while I said at the start that it looks like a Gloster, ironically, almost every body panel on the car has changed. Quite literally, apart from the 4 doors, everything is new. The Majestor is longer, wider and taller, and has a higher ground clearance that now stands at a mammoth 218 mm unladen. That of course has helped with its newfound off-road capability, which includes better approach, departure and breakover angles, as well as a crazy water wading ability of 810 mm. But let's take a step back and see how we feel about its looks. The soft, sophisticated curves of the Gloster have made way for an angrier, more in-your-face look, with a chunky rectangular grille, thin LEDs and vertically stacked headlamps. It's certainly imposing, but I feel it's lost some of its character in the process. All the chrome bits are now gloss black, and the larger dimensions make the 19-inch wheels look a bit small. The rear is more conventionally attractive with muscular detailing, dual exhausts and connected tail lamps. And of course, Majestor spelled out in big letters on the tailgate. What do you think of the look? Tell us down in the comments. One thing you can't deny, it certainly has presence. So the 50 lakh rupee question is this: Where does the MG Majestor fit amongst its competition? On one hand, you have the more refined monocoque SUVs like the Kodiaq and the Tayron, and on the other, its more traditional ladder frame rival, the Toyota Fortuner. Though so much has been changed in the transition from Gloster to Majestor, the proposition remains largely the same. It offers immense size and space with great ease of driving despite its tough chassis, and this time its off-road ability is truly impressive. Has it created a new D+ SUV segment? We're not so sure about that one, but what it has done is comprehensively refine almost every aspect of its predecessor to create a far more capable package. It's a tremendous all-rounder that adds some sophistication to all that utility, and on outright space, it's really hard to beat.